The entire hangar went silent when the old mechanic placed the tiny broken toy plane on the billionaire's desk. Hundreds of people were watching. Engineers, executives, pilots, and investors all stood frozen as the CEO laughed loudly and pointed at the small toy in the mechanic's rough hands. "You couldn't even fix a toy plane," the CEO sneered. "And you think you can save my company's 12 private jets?" The crowd laughed. But nobody knew that the little toy plane carried a memory worth more than millions of dollars. Nobody knew that the man standing there with oil-stained hands and an old toolbox had once been the genius behind the very aircraft keeping that company alive. And nobody knew that within hours, the same man everyone mocked would become the only person capable of stopping a disaster that could destroy a fortune built over decades. Before we continue this emotional journey, if you believe kindness, second chances, and hidden talents still matter in this world, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel, Beyond Single Dad, for more inspiring stories. The morning began at one of the most expensive private aviation facilities in the country. The giant hangar stood like a palace of steel and glass, holding 12 luxury jets worth hundreds of millions of dollars. These aircraft belonged to one of the most powerful aviation companies in the world, a company led by a man named Cashin Voss. Cashin was famous for his success. He had built an empire from nothing and turned a small aviation business into a global brand. Magazines called him a visionary. Investors called him a genius. But behind the expensive suits and confident smile was a man who had forgotten one important thing: machines were built by people. And people were not machines. At the edge of that massive hangar walked a man nobody noticed. His name was Rowan Hale. He wore an old leather jacket, faded jeans, and carried a metal toolbox that looked older than most of the employees inside the building. His hands were rough, his face showed years of hard work, and his eyes carried the quiet sadness of someone who had lost more than he ever talked about. Years ago, Rowan had been one of the best aircraft engineers in the industry. He could listen to an engine and understand its problem. He could look at a damaged aircraft part and know exactly what had failed. He had designed systems that made planes safer and more efficient. But life changed. After losing his wife, Mirella, to a sudden illness, Rowan walked away from the aviation world. He had a young daughter, Talia, who needed him more than airplanes did. So he chose family over fame. He became a simple repairman in a small town, fixing old cars, farm equipment, and sometimes broken toys for neighborhood children. People forgot his name. The industry moved on. But Rowan never forgot the machines he loved. That was why he was standing in Cashin Voss's hangar that day. A former colleague had called him desperately. "The jets have a problem," his friend said. "The company engineers can't figure it out." Rowan didn't want to return. He had spent years trying to leave that world behind. But then his friend told him something that changed everything. The safety issue could affect hundreds of flights. Rowan couldn't ignore that. He came because he believed every machine carried responsibility. But Cashin Voss didn't see a skilled engineer. He saw an old man with a rusty toolbox. When Rowan entered the executive area, the room immediately changed. People looked at him differently. Some whispered. Others smiled. Cashin walked toward him wearing an expensive suit and a confident expression. "So you're the legend they called?" Cashin said. Rowan stayed quiet. Cashin looked at his old toolbox and laughed. "I expected someone more impressive." Rowan looked toward the aircraft outside. "I didn't come here to impress you. I came to solve a problem." That answer irritated Cashin. The CEO was used to people trying to please him. But Rowan wasn't there for money or attention. He was there because planes carried lives. The engineers showed Rowan the data. The 12 jets had developed a mysterious mechanical issue. The systems were showing inconsistent readings. Every expert had checked the aircraft, but nobody could find the cause. Rowan carefully examined the information. Then he noticed something. A tiny pattern. Something everyone else missed. "The problem isn't the main system," Rowan said. "It's a small vibration coming from a secondary connection." The engineers looked confused. One of them laughed. "That's impossible. We tested everything." Rowan walked toward the aircraft. Sometimes the biggest failures begin with the smallest cracks. He opened his toolbox. Inside were old tools, many worn from years of use. Cashin watched from a distance. "You're really going to fix a multi-million-dollar jet with those?" Rowan didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out a tiny screwdriver. The same type he used years ago. The same type he used when repairing something much smaller. A toy plane. Years earlier, when his daughter Talia was 7 years old, she had received a small toy airplane from her mother before she passed away. It was the last gift Marella had bought. One day, the toy broke. Talia cried for hours because she thought she had lost the last memory of her mother. Rowan sat with her all night trying to repair it. He didn't have the right tools. He didn't have instructions. But he kept trying. Finally, he fixed it. Talia hugged him and said, "You can fix anything, Dad." Those words stayed with him. Because later, when life became difficult, when he lost his job, when he felt forgotten, that little toy plane reminded him that his hands still had value. Back in the hangar, Rowan carefully examined the aircraft. Hours passed. Everyone watched. Some people doubted him. Some people mocked him. But Rowan didn't care. He wasn't trying to prove himself. He was trying to protect people. Then suddenly, he stopped. He found it. A tiny damaged component hidden deep inside the system. Something so small that everyone ignored it. Rowan looked at the engineers. This part is failing under pressure. It's creating false readings. The engineers checked. And slowly, their expressions changed. He was right. The entire room went quiet. Cashin walked closer. "You found it." Rowan nodded. "But this is only one jet. The other 11 need inspection too." The CEO smiled slightly. "Do you really think you can fix all 12? Rowan looked directly at him. "If this part is damaged in one aircraft, it's likely the others have the same weakness." The engineers began checking the remaining jets. And one by one, they discovered the same issue. A problem that could have caused a massive failure. A problem nobody else found. The room that once laughed at Rowan was now silent. But Cashin still struggled to accept it. He looked at Rowan's toolbox. "You know what's strange?" Cashin said. "You're the first person who ever challenged me in this building." Rowan looked away. Maybe because everyone else was afraid of losing something.